They've been trying to paint this picture that games have always been a certain way and nobody seemed to care until they found out they could grift off of it. And so that's exactly what NPCs on the right started doing. And that's why anytime a woke game comes out, you have this outcry from a small minority loud group of people. I mean, guys, any reasonable human being that's been paying attention to all of this understands what they're doing is describing themselves. That the anti-woke crowd is trying to bully or put fear into developers so they don't use diversity in their games. That's exactly what they've been doing for the past, I don't know how many years now, at least 15. Letting developers know there's going to be a price to pay if they don't have diversity in their game. And there's countless examples of developers catching shit because they didn't have enough diversity. And eventually some of them actually give up and say, I'm not going to win either way, so I'm just going to make the game I want. And if that game happens to be a historically accurate time period where it was mostly white people, a game like Kingdom Come Deliverance, for example, you're going to get accused of being racist. You're going to be blackballed at certain outlets. I mean, Giant Bomb didn't even want to cover it for the dumbest reason ever. And by the way, I used to love Giant Bomb before they went full woke retard. I loved Ryan Davis. And bear in mind, they were pretty diverse back then. So obviously, if you take issue with that, you're not going to be able to enjoy them as an outlet. As somebody that came from a Korean mom and a white dad, it was nice to see an Asian guy every now and then. But the difference is, I'm not going to start this hate campaign, try to get you canceled, put some pressure on you to hire an Asian guy, when I can just turn the channel and go watch something else, right? And it just seems like a lot of people are incapable of doing that because they've been able to exist in this bubble for so long that the world has to bend to their wishes and see things exactly how they see them. Or you're the enemy. I know quite a few people that don't see things how I do, but I'm not going to unfollow you or stop being your friend just because you said something or you think a certain way that I don't like. You can't react on these little moments. There's this total picture you have to be considerate about. Overreact to every single little moment, and if you don't do the same, you're Hitler. And so what's happened is video games being made by these very extreme, radical, hateful people have become the symbol of all of those shitty things. The labeling, the canceling, the attacking, and then pulling the victim card when somebody defends himself. And they're too stubborn to acknowledge that. They're too blinded by their own manufactured hate to understand this, and this is why AAA gaming is not really in the best place right now. I don't want to sound like a broken record player, but the only diversity when it comes to game development is in skin color or sexual orientation. There's absolutely no diversity in thought. It's one huge hive mind. If you're conservative, you're just not welcome. That's what AAA game design has turned into. It wasn't always like that, and it's been getting worse and worse and worse, and we've been able to pull back the curtain even more. I mean, they're not really hiding who they are anymore. They don't feel like they have to. They'll gladly lose their job over being human filth because in their minds, they're doing it for a good cause. In their minds, they're a hero, and they're not going to be unemployed for long. Asians don't really have much representation in video games, and if they do, it's always a samurai, it's always some nerdy scientist, and it's like, we can't even have that anymore. To the people that call the shots, that's just not inclusive or diverse enough, so they have to shoehorn races that are higher up on the diversity scale. So think about it. It's not just if you try to make a game that's going to be historically accurate, and that accuracy lends to just a bunch of white people, we're going to come after you. However, we're going to shove whatever we want down your throats, and if you object to it, we're going to also come after you. We're going to call you a racist, a bigot, and all these other things. You guys already know. You know the deal. And here's another thing. This whole idea that I'm only making this video or other people are only making this video for the outrage views and the grift, I know I'm half retarded, but I'm not too stupid where I can't look at data and understand, okay, this is going to do better than that. And these woke topics are straight A's. Not only do I often lose subscribers from the very few that I have, I promise you, my shitty tutorial videos and just random nonsense does so much better. So that blanket coverage of discrediting people isn't going to work if someone's going to take the time and actually look. And I think that's a big part of what's missing in our society nowadays. Not enough people willing to go out there and actually look, take time and do some research before drawing a conclusion. But to get back on track, so that's some of what's going on. gamers, customers are getting a glimpse at the people making their games, right? Developers who seem to resent their fans, who nowadays, instead of just taking feedback and taking criticism to make their next game better, they'll just deflect it and call you a misogynist or racist for not liking their game. And while I do agree, people shouldn't just jump to conclusions and think a game is woke just because it has a female character or a gay dude, we have reached a very unhealthy point in our relationship with game designers as customers, and everyone is to blame. Game design back in the day, mostly white nerdy straight dudes, but you've had opportunists, such as Anita Sarkeesian, pop up in the gaming industry at different points in time, trying to convince everybody that there's this huge misogyny problem. And then you have other opportunists trying to convince everybody there's a racism problem and a sexism problem. And guess who can fix these problems? The ones trying to convince everybody that they exist. You want to talk about grift? The reality is there was a lot of white nerdy straight dudes making video games because there's a lot of white nerdy straight dudes playing video games. White guys make up a huge portion of the consumer base in video games, and that's even true to this day. So what seems like it makes more sense to you? Having a male lead character in your video game to try to appeal to the people that are actually playing your game, or you're only having a white male lead character because you're a sexist and a racist? Any grounded, reasonable person knows the answer. But it has been these lies, these attacks on game developers, and us for that matter, that paved the way for a transformation in gaming. I think women make up about 35-40% of game design nowadays. So if you're wondering why it seems like every single game is having these soft pastel colors shoved into all of them, even in franchises where they were once upon a time a little bit more darker, serious in tone, well, that's why. And to me, it seems like a lot of these women working in game design are feminist. The guys they're working shoulder to shoulder with definitely aren't going to challenge any of their immersion-breaking suggestions. The ear-shrieking, banshee screams of women in Battlefield 6, for example. By the way, Battlefield 1 had a very respectable, professional woman announcer that I thought added to the game. The woman voices on the battlefield seemed a bit more grounded. And it's almost like they've seen the complaints about women's screams on the front lines of war, making the game a little less immersive for some people. And instead of giving them an option to toggle that off, which from what I understand would be a really easy thing to do, it's like they ratcheted it up to 11 as a way to say fuck you. So when it comes to these woke video games, that's part of it for a lot of people. Sick and tired of being disrespected, demeaned, labeled, and in some cases attacked, when you've done nothing but be a good customer to these companies, bought each and every one of their games. And some of these games have become the symbol for that. So if you really want to take a look at what changed, an honest look, it's the treatment of their fans, the way they use diversity and inclusion to deflect honest criticism. I'm not sure if you've noticed, but there's a war going on, and unfortunately that war has spilt into video games. One of the main differences is that they used to hide their hatred and contempt for people. Do I really have to pull up the endless tweets of people in this industry taking turns insulting their customers, sometimes going as far as to say you're not even welcome to buy their game if you are right-leaning or whatever? I mean, guys, I used to use video games to escape all of this bullshit. All of the politics and all of the grief from realizing how shitty humanity is, you guys know. But they've managed to use video games, and it didn't happen overnight. It took time, but they flipped the script. Activists infiltrated, I would say, around Gamergate, and our escape from all the bullshit actually became a thing that propels it onto us, injects us with more of it. This unescapable overload, non-stop assault of virtual signaling, arrogance and pompousness, gigantic hypocrites. You know damn well that a race swap would end badly if you were swapping out a person of color for somebody that was white. They would act like the world was coming to an end. A byproduct of their forced inclusion has been this incredibly negative attitude and outlook on white people. It would be nice to get back to getting along with everyone, and it just seems like it's their mission to keep that from happening.